Hello and welcome to the Poolpanda channel. We would like to introduce you this great device from Intex. It is a combination of water sprayer and a LED unit, whereby we would like to call it a waterfall. The question is, what exactly does this device do, and how does it work? On the one hand it generates light, and on the other hand, it produces a water jet. But, where does the energy for the LED come from? In fact, nothing needs to be plugged into the wall socket here. The LED is powered by the internal water pressure. This means, if your pump is strong, then the water will be sprayed out quite a distance. If your pump is less powerful, then the effect is smaller. Please note that the waterfall function starts beginning from roughly 700 gallons or 2,700 liters per hour system flow rate. Using a pump with less power may lead to problems and unsatisfying results. For our first test, we have connected a filter cartridge pump with 750 gallon system flow rate, and the result was already quite okay. But, the LED did not show any sign of life. Too bad. We assume that the LED needs more pressure to work. And with a sand filter system performing 1050 gallons or 3700 liter system flow rate, this was also the case. So, if you use filter cartridge systems, do not necessarily assume that the LED will work. Whereas, for us, the core feature is really the waterfall, and that works quite well as long as you go with at least 700 gallon system flow rate. So, it is time for tests with sand filter systems. First, we use an Intex unit with about 1050 gallon system flow rate. We get both an LED effect and a nice and subtle waterfall here, which we really like. The Intex Water Sprayer 28089 is also a good way to experience the difference between pump flow rate and system flow rate. If you set the lever to circulate, then the water is no longer forced through the sand. This reduces the back pressure, and you get about 1,200 gallons or 4,500 liters instead of 1,050 gallons or 3,700 liters per hour. The waterfall is then significantly larger. Next, a sand filter with a little more capacity is tested. Here it is 1,200 gallon system flow rate per hour. Unsurprisingly, the waterfall is larger than with the weaker Intex unit. If you circulate this unit, the waterfall hardly gets any bigger, there's just more water coming out of the bottom. That's not a bad thing, since the waterfall is supposed to end up in the pool and not outside, after all. Next up is one of our favorite sand filter systems. The Steinbach 040100 performs impressive 2,100 gallons or 8,000 liters system flow rate per hour and is much more powerful than any of our previous pumps. The pressure is really very high, and the waterfall is then again a little bit bigger. It also makes sense that quite a lot of water runs out of the bottom. This is important, because either the waterfall would splash extremely far, or the performance of the sand filter system would go down considerably. Without this design, the waterfall probably wouldn't end up in the pool, even though we're using a 16 feet pool here. This brings us to some practical impressions. Probably, the waterfall can't get big enough for kids, and presumably some adults would like it more discreet. Especially if the pool is not too big, and the water would splash out of it, a solution is needed. Either way, you will constantly lose a minimum of water, because there is a little splashing at the outside of the sprayer. As a result, some drops will land outside the pool. And that to the left as well as to the right side of the water sprayer. This is not too bad, because even over many hours there is not much together, but you should know it. Of course, the stronger your pump, the greater the effect. For round pools this is a small, not too important issue, as you can see in the video. In contrast, for pools with straight sides this is hardly an issue overall. But back to the original problem. If you have a 12 feet pool and use a big pump, performing 2,100 gallons, it could happen that some water at the end of the waterfall doesn't end up in the pool anymore. And here, despite to the droplets issue, we are talking about considerable amounts of water on this side. And now, here we have a few recommendations for you. First, a round pool with 10 feet should be operated at most with a sand filter up to 1,050 gallon system flow rate. In such a scenario, a noticeable loss of water is unlikely. Second, for the 12 feet round pool, we would go up to roughly 1,300 gallon system flow rate per hour. Third, 1,600 gallons or 6,000 liters system flow rate per hour should be the upper limit for the 15 feet round pool. Fourth, 2,100 gallons or 8,000 liters system flow rate per hour is okay for even larger pools. But, what if you use stronger pumps than we recommend for smaller pools? Or, what if you generally want the waterfall to be discreet? Is this now the end for the waterfall? Not necessarily. We did some experiments for you. Again, We use the 16 feet pool in combination with the strong 2,100 gallon pump. This time, we used an additional 3-way valve, so that the water can be transferred through the Intex water sprayer, as well as through the normal outlet into the pool. In short, there is less pressure at the Intex waterfall. And the result turns out as hoped. The waterfall is much smaller and more discreet. The result is really impressive, because the waterfall has become much smaller. With such a constellation, the powerful 2,100 gallons pump could easily be used with a 12 feet, if not even a 10 feet pool. We can warmly recommend our method. Now to the construction, this really works wonderfully and easily. For large Intex or Bestway pools, you can directly connect the hoses with union nut, and for smaller pools you can use the supplied adapter. You can connect standard 1,25 inch and 1,5 inch hoses to the adapter. That corresponds to 32 and 38 millimeters. But attention, the connection works only with steel frame pools. Steel wall pools, pools with air ring, buried pools, or graphite pools are not compatible. Now we come to the LED. Does it shine brightly enough? We have to be quite clear here. The effect is hardly noticeable during the day. With very little residual light, the effect is quite pleasant, but still no spectacle. All pools will hardly be illuminated comprehensively with it, even at night. The elevated position alone prevents this. The goal is to illuminate the outflowing water, not the pool itself. In short, it is a nice gimmick. Nothing more, but also nothing less. The main feature is definitely the waterfall. We still have one really important issue. Normally, the filtered water is moved around inside the pool, and is therefore not a relevant source of noise. However, when the water is sprayed over a certain distance, it splashes like a mini waterfall. Well, who is really surprised, because you want a small waterfall anyway, if you're considering this item. And that means, that depending on the strength of the waterfall, volume can definitely become a factor. If you are allergic to loudness, then stay away from the Intex 28089 sprayer. The volume of the waterfall can rival the volume of a powerful sand filter system. But, what to do, if the kids really want a waterfall? Again, the 3-way valve is the solution. Instead of using both outlets, you can select just one. This means that if you want peace and quiet after a stressful day at work, the water will flow normally into the pool via the outlet as quietly as usual. If the kids want a waterfall, then you switch the 3-way valve, and everyone is satisfied in the end. Conclusion: please think about whether the volume and splashing are okay for you. If you are using a cartridge filter system, then you need to be aware that the LED may not work at all, or may work very weakly. If you are aware of the pros and cons, and you like the pros much more, then just go for it. Just follow our recommendations, and the water sprayer will do a great job. If you would like to purchase this water sprayer, we would appreciate if you would purchase it through the Amazon link below. You would help us to produce a lot more content for you, and that would be really great.